So for this section, it's 5.6. We're gonna learn how to find midpoints of line segments. First of all, let's figure out what are line segments. Okay, so first of all, the line, it extends indefinitely in both directions, a regular line. So there is no midpoint for a line because it goes indefinitely. But if we take a portion of this line, we cut out a piece or an interval on this line, this is called a line segment. And let's say that we know the coordinates of this point right here. It's going to be x1, y1. And we also have coordinates on this side, this end of the segment. We're going to call it x2, y2. Just to make sure there is a difference between them. Like this, if we just wrote xy, xy, we don't know which one is which. So we're gonna label one with subscript 1 and another one with subscript 2. So basically, we know that this xy comes from the first pair, from the first point, and this xy comes from the second point. Now we want to find a coordinate of the point that's in the middle. We're going to call it M. This is point 1, point 2, and let's say this is M. Can we, if we know these coordinates, can we find the coordinates of this point? That's what we're going to be talking about here. And why would that be important? Like if we have a circle, for example, imagine that's a circle, and we want to find the center of the circle. And suppose that we know this point, x1, y1, and we know this point, x2, y2. Can we learn, can we find the center of the circle? Well, if we knew how to figure out the middle point, then we could find it. Well, fortunately, we do have the formula that helps us in this case. It says the x-coordinate of the midpoint of a line segment is halfway between the two x-coordinates of the endpoints of the line segment. Likewise, the y-coordinate of the midpoint of a line segment is halfway between the two y-coordinates of the endpoint. So, therefore, this point has coordinates. So its x-coordinate, so this whole thing is the x-coordinate of this point. And this whole thing is the y-coordinate of this point. So as you can see, the x-coordinate is the average of x1 and x2, and the y-coordinate is the average of y1 and y2. So they're the averages. You basically have to average out x values and average out y values. Let's practice. This is, let's practice by finding the midpoint of the line segment that has endpoints of -5, -4, and 7, 2. First, let's graph it and find where the midpoint is by approximation or guessing. So here we have a graph. This point is -5, -4, and this point is 7 and 2. So if we eyeball the middle, this would probably be it. And is this negative, is this 1, -1? let's see. So here, averaging out the X values, -5 and 7 gives us -5 plus 7 divided by 2, which simplifies to 2/2, which is 1. And then averaging out the y values, -4 and 2. So we have -4 plus 2/2. And then that simplifies to -2/2, which simplifies to -1. So yeah, the coordinate of the midpoint is 1, -1. All right. So we have a couple of other problems where we can practice this skill. It says use the midpoint formula to find the midpoint of the line segment whose endpoints are -3, -5, and 5, 5. Plot the endpoints and the midpoint of a rectangular coordinate system. So we have -3, 1, 2, 3. 3 to the left and -5. That means 5 down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So here's my first point. The second point is 5, 5. So 5 to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 5 up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have 5, 5, -3, -5. So that's my line. The line is right there. Okay, so eyeballing the midpoint, I would say this is the midpoint. And that's the coordinate of 1, 0, right? Because it's on the x-axis. So the second coordinate is 0. Let's see if that's true. So for the x coordinate of the midpoint, I will call it x of m. Average out the x values, -3 and 5. So that's 2/2 is 1. So far, so good. I'm right. The y coordinate of the midpoint, the average of the y coordinates, -5 plus 5/2. Yay, 0/2 is 0. So yes. We have a coordinate of the midpoint, 1, 0, just like we expected. Okay, let's try again. Use the midpoint formula to find the midpoint of the line segment whose endpoints are -2, -5, and 6, and -1. Plot the endpoints and the midpoint on the rectangular coordinate system, and I guess find the midpoint as well. So pause here, do it by yourself, and then come back and we will compare our results. So here's what I got. I'm just curious if you got the same thing, let me know. Here, I just wanted to draw your attention. We have -5 and -1 that we're averaging out. So we're adding -5 and a -1, which becomes a -6. So plus a -1, or we could write it as -5 minus a 1, like that too, which would mean the same thing. Just wanted to point it out. All right, guys, see you in the next video.